Yes, indeed. Thanks very much indeed, Palesa. It was unfortunate that former President Jacob Zuma denied that he instructed the late Minister Collins Chabane to fire Themba Maseko. In fact, let's find out from Manqoba Mchunu, who's been following this story. Again, the state capture inquiry revisiting times that took place at the former president's office, and personnel from the presidency testifying. And then there was this big issue, of course, of whether President Zuma instructed the firing of Themba Maseko. What played out today?
Well, of course, Peter, that was the major talking point there at the State Capture Commission today. And of course, this stems from Themba Maseko's allegations before the State Capture Commission in August last year, where he revealed that, he had been informed by Minister Collins Chabane that he had received an instruction from the former president to remove him from his office. And of course, that stems from the allegations that, of course, Themba Maseko himself at that time had refused to listen to the instruction from the president to help the Gupta brothers, of course, which is one of his testimony there at the State Capture Commission. But it says following that, he was then removed from GCIS. And then he testified that he was told by Chabane that, in fact, that order came from the former president to say that he must be removed and that he must be replaced with Manqoba Manyi. So the two witnesses, in effect, that were testifying today are from the minister in the presidency's office at the time, which is Collins Chabane. And of course, their testimony is that it was really the former president that gave that instruction. The first witness was a spokesperson of the late minister, saying that, he received a call, and he obviously says he confided in me as one of the close, people that used to work with him, that in fact, President Jacob Zuma had phoned to say that he needs to remove Mr. Maseko and replace him with Manqoba Manyi at the time. So he says that was an allegation, and the fact that the president, of course, who denied this when he appeared at the State Capture Commission in July, saying that he has never instructed for the removal of Maseko, and why on earth will he leave the country for him to make such a decision or a phone call to the minister? Why didn't he address it when he was here? So he says the president's claims at the time at the commission are simply not true. Let's take a listen, Peter.
Maseko's evidence is that Mr. Chabane told him that he had been instructed by the president to redeploy me or terminate my contract henceforth. What do you say about that statement?
No, I never instructed the minister to do so.
Did you discuss the issue with the minister?
No, the minister discussed the fact that he would like to transfer Mr. Maseko.
Did he say why?
Well, I think there was an issue between the two of them. I can't remember the details.
All right, so that clearly contradicts the president, doesn't it?
Certainly, Peter, as you can hear him in that clip, he clearly says that, he did not instruct it. And he says that he parks the buck to the late former minister to say that, maybe it was an issue that he dealt with at the time. And even further in his testimony suggesting that, Collins Chabane could have name-dropped, used his name in order to remove Themba Maseko, but he says he had no part in it. But of course, his spokesperson, Brent Simons, his former spokesperson of the late minister, says that is not true. He says that, in fact, it's not even close to the character of the minister to actually, lie or to remove or to name drop, for example, using the name of the president to get rid of Maseko. And that's what he testified today at the commission. Let's take a listen.
When the president, former president, said that the minister, and I think he said it at the commission, that the minister probably was name-dropping, that is totally contradictory to the character of the minister. The minister was the minister in the presidency. With that came certain, I would say, wherever you went and you said this is the minister in the presidency, people had a certain amount of respect for that office. So I just thought that the former president was not truthful when he, in front of the commission and to the people of South Africa, said that the president was probably, name-dropping in terms of saying that I'm sure when he phoned or he made the phone call, he used my name, and I thought that was incorrect. And I think that's part of the reason why some of us from the ministry are here.
Again, Manqoba, this is a testimony that directly contradicts the president. So now we have two versions on record, and everyone is under oath. So someone's perjured themselves already, and that's what the commission...
I think that's the question, Pete. I mean, did the former president lie under oath? And of course, that's some of the things that the chair, the Deputy Chief Justice, will have to weigh at the end of the testimony to, when he does an assessment of the testimony, as well as the characters, the character witnesses of those particular people that gave evidence. And I mean, that's one of the issues he's going to look into, the different versions that have been given, which one seems more truthful and which one does not hold water. And of course, based on the evidence that has been given, it seems at this point to suggest that, the former president might have misled the commission with regards to this issue.
Yeah. But there was more than one witness that appeared today.
Of course, there was also the chief of staff from the former minister's office, that's the minister in the presidency, who also testified, basically corroborated the evidence of the Brent Simons, saying that, he was with the minister when the former president made that call to him to say that Themba Maseko must be removed. But he says he didn't hear the conversation. But what the minister told him after that is that he simply said, we'll have to remove Themba, which means that they'll have to remove Themba Maseko. But he says, I didn't go into the merits of it or ask why or who gave that instruction, but he says he just corroborated that part. But of course he says that, threats have been made against his life. He says that on the day that the former president appeared at the State Capture Commission, you remember from July the 15th, he appeared there to the 19th. He says on the day that he testified, he received a call threatening his life to say, don't reveal any information about Maseko's firing. And if you do, there will be consequences. So there are some of the serious allegations that emerged out of today's testimony.
All right, so what's expected to happen tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow, Peter, we are going to hear testimony that will be implicating the former Free State Premier, Magashule. Of course, we expect the MEC of Economic Development, or the former MEC of Economic Development, Tukwana, to come to the commission. He's been there before, and basically he's testified about how the former Premier introduced him to the Gupta family, and how the Gupta family had offered a bribe of 2 million rand per month for them to secure a contract for one of their associates. So we expect to hear more from him with regards to that contract.
I suppose lots of speculation of what could happen to the State Capture Commission of Inquiry following Gavin Watson's death this morning. Allegations were made against him. What then happens? I suppose we're going to need to find out what it all means.
Of course, Pete. I mean, and it's not just any witness that has, died, because it's one of the witnesses that was implicated by some of the witnesses on serious allegations. Some of them, I mean, including state capture, so it's a serious allegation. And I mean, he had received a notice 3.3 that really informs him of how he's implicated. So that's a notice that's given to people that are implicated by any evidence. And so he had received many of them, not one, but several of them, based on the testimony that was there. So certainly it's a blow for the commission, the fact that, he has died, and he takes whatever information and whatever witness testimony that he had with him to the grave.
All right. Manqoba, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much indeed for that update. No doubt we'll be chatting to you again during the course of this week. Okay, so that was an update on what's been happening at the State Capture Commission of Inquiry.